Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be doing a partial unboxing of Flyin Miata's exclusive coilover setup. They have developed this coilover setup with Fox Racing, and it is what they consider their premium lineup. So without further ado, let's see what $2,500 gets you. So it is sent in two individual boxes. The first box, the larger of the two, will contain the shock absorbers themselves. Funny enough, the smaller box, the spring box, is actually heavier than the shock box. This is the only coilover setup I have personally owned where the springs are heavier than the shock absorber. This is due to Fox's aluminum-bodied shock, which are incredibly light. So this one has not been opened. Let's change that. So we'll go ahead and just slide this on through. Beautiful, beautiful. And immediately we are met with a bunch of bubble wrap. Protective bubble wrap for sure. I cannot blame them. I would not want this to be damaged either. Oh, excuse me. There we go. So we'll go ahead and remove the bubble wrap here and expose what looks to be the front coil, or the front shock absorber. Apologies. These are, like I said, fully aluminum bodied. And look at all that adjustment. These are, Flyin Miata considers these long travel coilovers, and oh man, these are some tall boys for sure. So let's go ahead and pull it out of its little sleeve here. I suppose we can unwrap this, lay it down nicely. Go ahead. Alrighty, now we have the shock nicely laid down, and just look at that. It is an absolutely beautiful shock. The aluminum body just makes it look that much better, in my opinion. And look at all that adjustability. That is a lot of ride height adjustability, and of course you can adjust your dampening through here. The springs are where we find the rest of our coilover setup. So these are the rear coil springs, helper springs, mainspring, and then these are the fronts. And you can see just how big of a difference that they make. Look at this. Move that out of the way. The rear mainsprings are just about as big, a little bit bigger, than the front helper spring box. That is insane to me. So that's the whole rear coil spring. Anyway, we're going to set that to the side. Grab out the helper spring first. Grab the coil spring out second. Alrighty. So in here we have our main coil, created by Eibach. Flyin Miata likes to run about 400 pounds in the front and 275 in the rear, if I am remembering those numbers correctly. And of course, these helper springs are what provide most of your daily usability. So if you don't know, daily driving a car with 400-pound springs means that you're constantly doing this in the car. You're bouncing up and down constantly. With these little helper springs, this is what's going to bounce up and down for you. See how easily I can compress that? So these are going to be absorbing your minor road bumps, while these, much harder. Oh, look at that, I can't move it, because these require 400 pounds to move it 1 square inch, or 400 pounds of pressure to move it 1 inch down, or compress it 1 inch. Sorry, I don't know how to speak today apparently. Either way, this is what you can expect on each side of the vehicle. So those are your fronts. Comes with its own top hats. The rear, you will be reusing the top hats as far as I know. And yeah, for the lucky owners who have purchased these, I wish you the best. For anybody who is looking for the absolute best that you can get for dual use, that's the important part here, is dual use. This is the best coilover setup for a weekend track car that you intend to do a lot of grocery getting in, something you want to drive to work in, something that you don't want to have dedicated race car suspension in. The Flyin Miata coilover setup is probably what you should get. If you're more into a dedicated track setup, these will not be the coilovers for you. You can get, of course, heavier springs. However, Flyin Miata has valved these springs for the spring rates that were provided earlier. So, of course, getting new spring rates means revalving them. Now you're just tuning them yourself, and they're not going to feel the way Flyin Miata has intended for them to feel, which is totally fine. You know, car modification is about doing what you want to your own car. But for all that, you might as well just go and get some Öhlins or some Zydas. The only benefit this would have compared to those for a track car is that they're very long travel suspension. So they're light. The long travel would make it a tempting, but honestly, the Zyda coilovers and the Öhlins, you can get Öhlins in long stroke too. They're about $1,000 more than these, but they are they're more rated for a dedicated track setup, while these are for if the Miata is not going to be only on the track. For me personally, this is supposed to be my daily driver, but it's not working out the way it's supposed to. And more of a canyon carving, like weekend car. I love taking it out to the mountains and canyon carving. So I fictionally, this suspension setup is what I need. But if you are dedicated track racing, then you might need to either put some time into modifying the spring rates and the valving, or better look elsewhere. So I will update further once I have installed these on the car. I will also be putting Carcept sway bars on at the same time, so those will definitely impact handling abilities. So keep that in mind if you decide to watch my further review of that. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a good one.